Hi, welcome to my first tutorial on modular gaming. In this tutorial I'm just going to show you the basics and kind of explain it, because most of this is going to be built from scratch but then put onto frameworks, but built from scratch first just to give you an idea of exactly what's going on. I'm going to assume for this tutorial that you know HTML, JavaScript, PHP, CSS and MySQL. If you don't know them, you'll want to check out w3schools.com, or just go, look on YouTube for any kind of tutorials on them specific languages or whatever. Yeah. But I'm just gonna briefly explain what modular gaming is in this video. So modular gaming is basically a game engine. So any kind of game could fit it, but the purpose for it to be the reason it's modular is because you can modify it in a way which you either add an element to the game or remove an element, like any kind of feature, without having to basically rebuild the entire thing. You just create a module and then insert that module, and then it'll add that extra feature. So, and that's done through a system of model view controller and hooks. Model view controller (MVC) is just a certain framework for creating web pages. There's quite a few out for PHP and that, but I'm going to discuss that later. It's not important at the minute. The main idea is modules, like I said, with basically adding extra features by just like a plugin, just installing it on your software, and then it's just up and running. You don't need to do anything else. And especially good if, since I'm releasing this as open source, there's basically a full game, and a lot of games have quite similar elements, so a lot easier to make any kind of game, and anyone can make it. So the way I'm going to do that is using an existing project, even though it's not complete, of this guy who's doing a modular gaming engine that's basically like an online MMO, but it's text based at the minute, a bit it's not in a major version yet. It's like not 1.0 yet, so there's still quite a lot of stuff that needs sorting. But I'm off to contribute as much as I can, since there's no projects like it around at the minute, and I reckon it's quite an important and good project. So the starting point for that is user interface, which is basically any kind of hardware or any way of interacting with a program, any kind of program, because all programs use a user interface. And the user interface for this is obviously going to be mouse movements, so mouse gestures are just wherever the mouse is, and the keyboard, and also clicking with the mouse with either the left or the right button, or even scrolling maybe. So that's a mixture of your hardware interacting with your user interface, and then your user interface basically doing something when you click a button. Like as you can see here, if I press a button, you won't be able. Oh wait, actually, no, you'll understand what I mean. At the minute, I've made a script which basically reads whatever button I press on the keyboard, and then I have an action in this game written in text as to what that button does. So if I click W, you can see this text has suddenly changed to W, and in brackets I've got an action saying walk forward. Another one would be E in itself. As you can see, that's just E is just a button on the keyboard, and in itself is just an action. And I'm using JavaScript to basically read whatever keyboard button I'm pressing, and depending on what button is pressed, it'll have some text, which is later going to be an action, and that text is getting feeded into this HTML element, which is a div. So if I just show you the code for that now. So text sizer is the script which reads the button. And as you can see, document on key press, it executes that function. So this is basically the bit of JavaScript that calls a function when a key is pressed, any kind of key, and then this function just reads the keys. And for each of these if statements, I've got a key, like, 1, if I click 1 on the keyboard, and then just after the if statement, there's an action. And in all of the cases, I've just got it filling in this div element with an ID of controller, and basically putting the text in, which is telling you the key that you just pressed, as well as an action or an object. So I just got that filled out for most of the common keys, and just kind of getting an idea of some controls I might want in the game, and just kind of noting them down. So if I just refresh, you can see it says controller information, but whenever I do press a key, it will change, obviously, like I mentioned before. But this isn't going to appear in the actual game, obviously, because you don't want to. I don't think you want a random grey bar telling you what you've done necessarily. This is just a debugging tool. We're going to build the game with a load of ways of checking it's running right and getting information so if something goes wrong, we can look at that information and know what's wrong. And obviously once we know it works, we'll set the debugging off. So we're using 5 tools for the user interface. The user interface file is just a HTML with JavaScript and CSS. This is what I'm building all the interactive user interface tools for this modular gaming framework. I'm building them from scratch. I'm just going to be using this file and then obviously advancing upon it and making it better and making it offer more. And the 5 things I'm testing, if I go back to the web page, I'm testing for keyboard input and then doing a lot of technical things with it to be able to basically read what the keyboard and do whatever we want depending on what information we get from the keyboard. And the same with the mouse, even though I haven't done that yet. After that, we're going to be trying out 3D interfaces. Obviously not real 3D, because it's not a free, most people don't have 3D displays. But basically interacting with 3D objects with a 2D interface. So we're going to be testing that in this block. Then interactive sandbox is basically going to be 2D user interface, but like dynamically built. So this could be anything 2D, and we'll figure out its own unique user interface for those 2D objects once we get to it. Multimedia box, we're basically going to be putting audio and video here, and plugins, and just general stuff like possibly Java and Flash. You know, just another option to interact, or if you want maybe some music or sound in the background of the game, by putting it all in here, and then give some options for user interface for them to be controlled there. And then the most basic thing, which you see on all websites, menus and links. We're just going to be trying out like several user interfaces for navigation. So they're all arranged in divs. This is the one I'm currently working on, which is the keyboard and mouse. As you can see, there's five classes with the combo panel. The combo panel is each section. We've got 5 sections because obviously we've got 5 different types of user interface, and we're just going to be filling them in here bit by bit. So we've got the keyboard done at the minute just for reading and being able to tell whoever's using it what key they've pressed and what we want that key to do, even though we're not actually telling it to do anything yet. It's just like a temporary sign of what it should be doing. So I'm just going to stop the tutorial there, because that's just the introduction. I'm going to go into the coding of the keyboard in the next tutorial, and after that I'll be doing the mouse and mouse gestures. So I've put them all in the playlist, so if you just want to check that out, it should be all there, depending on what days I get them done and that. So yeah, check the next one, still interested.